This week on the SA Rugby Oak podcast.
I've been absolutely dying watching it. My heart's been going through the roof. You were at my house on Saturday. We were crying one minute, we were shouting the next, we were shotting the next. It was absolutely incredible. I'll give you 3 words: smash and grab. We absolutely stole it at the death. George.
It's the thing of dreams. This is the final we've all been wanting since '95. It's the rematch. Hopefully nobody gets food poisoning, but it's going to be badass.
Welcome back to the SA Rugby Oak podcast with me, Matt, the SA Rugby Oak, and my heart attack of a co-host, Try Time George.
Oh, what? Thank you for the introduction. What a weekend again. Thank you, Springboks, for getting me signed up to a cardiologist sooner than I expected.
Yeah, look, it's never been easy to be a Bok fan, never. Despite 3 World Cup wins, it's always been challenging. However, George, the last couple of games, I've been absolutely dying watching it. My heart's been going through the roof. You were at my house on Saturday. We were crying one minute, we were shouting the next, we were shotting the next. It was absolutely incredible. But before we dive into the South Africa-England game, let's throw a quick shout out to the game before that. George, a little bit of a short description on the RGs versus the All Blacks. How did it go down?
So I'm going to be honest, training exercise, and that's harsh, but it was cakewalk. And yeah, so that's the shortest description I can give you. It was just a training exercise for the guys.
Yeah, it was a massive shame that game was as we've talked about at nauseum, was a semi-final, not potentially a quarter-final. We know all the issues with scheduling, but the Pumas they should have been better than that. That probably speaks to their entire World Cup campaign, which did build, but it built on foundations of sand, I'm afraid, and that sand was washed away by the All Black tide. Michael Cheika was absolutely to blame for terrible coaching and terrible defensive setup for that team.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone in very hard. Yes, the scoreline reflects exactly what it was, but they did start well, because it was, I think the first 10 minutes, let's say 10 minutes, was, you're like, okay, we've got a decent semi on our hand yet. And it then just went tits up for them. And don't like to talk about refs, but there were a lot of calls that I think were questionable. And that's just not only my opinion, it's a few others' opinion.
Yeah, look, George, you're not trying to tell me that any of those calls would have made any difference in that match.
Not at all. And maybe RGs would have scored a try, or maybe New Zealand would have scored 1 less try, or 2 at the most. But it wouldn't have changed the end result. The end result was the New Zealanders were going to make it through to the final.
Yeah, it was an absolute train wreck from the Argentines. An absolute. I don't want to be that guy, but it was pretty embarrassing for them. You saw old horseface, I can't remember his name, Lavanini, sitting on the bench and it was horrible to watch, because that guy's actually a warrior. Horrible to watch him sitting there crying at 40 minutes in. Absolutely. The problem is you had no plan B on attack, which was good in the first couple of minutes, as you said, and then you had no plan on defense. You cannot approach an All Black match without a solid defensive plan, including a plan to stop the All Black scrambling.
Yeah, and they're the best at it between them and the Boks, but I'm going to put them on the pedestal there. The New Zealanders are the best at scrambling.
Yeah.
And
it's not like the Pumas don't know how to beat them.
Argentines.
The Pumas know how to beat them.
Last year, the year before.
They've beaten them more than almost all the other Tier 1 nations apart from South Africa. right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
It
okay,
was a hope.
Ireland have had a couple of wins, France have had one win, but in the last 7, the Pumas have won twice under Michael Cheika. To go out there and to look as rabbit in a headlight, it was a massive shame. Big shout out to Will Jordan. I predicted him to be the top try scorer in the World Cup. Looks like he's going to be that close away from a little pass to get the world record. But he matches the legends. He matches the legends in Habana, Savea, and Lomu. And I just think Moanga maybe didn't want to give the record to someone to destroy the legacy of Lomu.
Maybe he thought he was a bit of a youngster. I feel like I heard that somewhere. They said, "Oh, he's the youngster. He's got many years to come to break the record." But his position might change. He's actually naturally a fullback. So maybe in the years to come, he's going to be shifted to fullback when Bowden Barrett hangs up his boots. Yeah. And then who knows? Maybe he'll score less tries. I mean, he's a try-scoring machine. He's an
absolute legendary player. He's so good. I cannot say more good things about Will Jordan. He is an out-and-out incredible winger. Yes, he can play 15, but he just finishes everything, and it's absolutely sensational to watch. And, we'll talk a little bit about it later, but Mark Salea on the other side, also getting a couple in that match and a couple opportunities and a very good player overall. George, we're going to shift over to the England game.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on that? Can you sum that up for me in a few words?
I'll give you 3 words: smash and grab. We absolutely stole it at the death. George, look, I'm not going to overreact to a piss poor start to the game. I think we play. So let's get this stat out there. When we play against the All Blacks on Saturday, the Springboks will have played 5 of the top 6 teams in the world to get to the final. There was going to be a game, as much as we wish there wasn't, where maybe we had a bit of a blip. And fair play to England, they came out and did a bock. They came out and tried everything to kill the game. They didn't look like scoring. This reaction to... It's quite sad, actually, George. This reaction to the game where Oaks are saying, "Oh my gosh, we lost, but it was the best performance since 2019. These players are playing so well." Bollocks to that. I'm sorry. England had a good game plan to kill the game. They lost by a point. It wasn't the best game. They beat the Boks at Twickenham 2 years ago. That was the best game, and they won it in the death. So I'm not going to go into this whole... I'm not going to buy into the narrative that England were this incredible team that came out. They had a really good game plan to kill the game. The Boks were slightly off the pace. The massive physicality of the last 6 weeks or 5.5 weeks must have hit us at that point. And I'll tell you something, George. Andre Pollard coming in for Marnie. You got a feel for the guy, but it was always in the game plan. The coaches are very open. I actually think they probably went, well, we can't end with Marnie, so we'll put Marnie on it first. And if there's trouble, we'll just switch him out. And I think that was great. The Pollard, the general, was back.
He was back, and he was back to his usual ways. He looked like Iceman. Did you see the slow-mo video of him after he took that penalty? Insane. He just runs back. You can hear the dog barking. But yeah, he's back, baby. And I do feel for Marnie, but the Springboks have done it before. They did it with Bongi a few years ago. And it's part of the team's dynamic, and they know if I'm not performing, coach is going to pull me off. It's for the benefit of the team and of the player, because at the end of the day, the player is going to get ridiculed.
The whole environment is about team first, and Rassie and Jacques get those players to buy into it. So look, I think Marnie has had a fantastic World Cup. Now going into the final, I think we're probably settled with Pollard. He's back to full form, full fitness. Potentially Marnie on the bench. We can talk about that in a little bit. But apart from him, obviously Bongi, amazing performance to last the game. We had Quagga Smith coming in making changes to the game. The entire bomb squad. But what about RG Snyman coming on for Irvin at 45 minutes. My heart.
Thought, what's going on? Is he even injured, or he didn't have his best game, but he's just come off probably one of the best games he's ever played in the green and gold the week before. So he's probably mentally, physically fatigued. So again, get him off and bring on another absolute giant unit of a man, RG. I saw when he scored that try, he's got a load of English players coming at him. Johnny May just was made to look like a 3-year-old, just getting bounced off him. It was awesome.
It was poetry in motion. I don't know, slam poetry or something.
Slams. But yeah, Dion Faree, to have the mental, or to think, right, we're on a 5-meter maul here. They're going to think we're going to go full shove as a maul. And to have the nous to go, ooh, I'm going to bust off here, because they're all focused on this maul. And look at that break. And then try time.
Yeah. And Dion flies under the radar a little bit because he's not maybe the physical presence that they're used to seeing in a Bok number 2 shirt. And I think he just did it perfectly there. And he is physical despite his slightly smaller stature, or his smaller stature for a back rower, let's say, Yeah, but obviously he's not carrying the weight of a hooker at the moment. Look, your Urbans, your Sears, your Dwaynes looked fatigued. They look slow, and it takes a hell of a coach in a knockout game semi-final that's not going your way to make those calls. And say we lost by a point, we lost by 3 points, we'd all be sitting here scratching our head going, why are top players being pulled off? Why weren't they physically ready? All the rest. But because we've won, we have the luxury of saying, actually, our coach has the balls to do it.
Yeah, that's true. We made all our subs bar one by a minute 50. That's big.
That's the bomb squad, baby. You come on, you defuse the bomb. The whole point of the bomb squad, the idea about this, this fraternity of players was these are the guys you call to defuse the bomb to get you out of trouble. And they did exactly that. And we won the game. There were many beers had. There were many shouts had, screams, laughter, crying, what have you. South Africa's come together, and we're going to make a fucking final again. And George, it's against the All Blacks, our old foes.
And it's going to be the greatest thing for me, because I land in Cape Town on Saturday morning.
Unbelievable. George, we'll move on to the final in just a minute, but before we do, wanted to bring up something that's been announced today, actually, the expansion. We knew that World Rugby were looking at bringing in a kind of Nations League in a couple of years, which will include all of the Six Nations, all the Tri-Nations, I think Fiji and Japan. Apart from player fatigue, it's probably great news all around, but the biggest bit of news that has been a bit of a bugbear of mine is this. They've now announced that as of the next World Cup, they're going to expand from 20 teams to 24 teams. Instead of reducing it for quality, they've expanded it for quality. What are your thoughts?
I think it is I don't want to be a dickhead, but I think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Because you've seen how the minnows have been absolutely smashed and cricket scores getting put up. I know the Cricket World Cup is on now, but this is the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
So we can't have cricket score games because it's just, what is that doing to those teams? Oh, yeah, I played against New Zealand, but you got absolutely dominated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think it's silly.
I think we talked about it a couple of podcasts ago that this constant obsession with expanding teams and reducing the quality of the matches is not. It's the opposite of expanding the game. You want to make the game as attractive as possible to as many people to glue. Yeah. When you watch the Soccer World Cup, you don't care where you're from. You want to watch your Brazils, your Spains, your all the rest of its play.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to make the product of rugby its best quality. And there are 16 teams in this World Cup that deserve to be there, and 4 that were given an opportunity to be there. Let's just I'm going to read from World Rugby's website on what's going to happen. And actually, after reading this, there's a couple of things that I think are good. But overall, again, do we need more teams? You had your Portugals who did nicely in a pretty average side of the draw. But apart from that, are we going to get worse than that? Are we going to get worse than Namibia, who's never won a game? Let's hear what World Rugby have to say. It said, Rugby World Cup 2027 will be hosted between the 1st of October and the 13th of November in 2027. The tournament will be expanded from 20 teams to 24 teams. Here's something that's quite interesting. We have reduced the 6 weeks, bracket 7 weekends, Rugby World Cup window, which has been approved, supporting the welfare and entertainment values imperative. The pool phase will be reduced from 5 to 4 weeks. So there's something that's positive. Rather than this elongated pool stages with lots of games that don't matter, it's being nipped down to 4 to make it more exciting. But what it means is the round of 16 will be introduced before the quarterfinals. It'll give teams like Ireland the chance to win a knockout game. With 2 teams from each pool qualifying. The decision provides certainty for all stakeholders and maintain Rugby World Cup's position as a jewel in the crown on the international calendar. Lol. Details of the qualification process are to come. So what's happening is they're making 6 pools of 4, which I find quite interesting, which means that you will actually get you will get probably better pools because you're not playing 5 teams. But will that mean that there's 1 minnow in each pool getting dicked on by 3 teams instead of 2 minnows that have the chance to maybe have a win at some stage there?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we're going to have a... I mean, that doesn't sound as bad now when you read it out like that, but I still just think it's too many teams. It's just too many. The Football World Cup has how many? You know,
well, they are expanding as well. But I like the idea of changing it to 4 teams. But I was hoping to go the other way of going down to, 4 groups of 4 rather than 6 groups of 4. I don't believe inviting more small teams in was a solution. As something like, look, you've got a minnow team that comes in, say you're Portugal. They've done really nicely, but now they don't play again properly for another 4 years, hoping they get into the World Cup. Why don't you bring something in like you have 12 teams that qualify for the World Cup, or 10 teams that qualify the World Cup, whatever it is, and you have a kind of pre-tournament that ebbs into it. So you have a Minnows Shield World Cup before the World Cup. Yeah. You sell the shit out of the rights. You get teams who are playing great matchups, like when we saw... who was it? Was it Chile, Romania, whoever it was that were playing against each other? Chile, Japan, Namibia. Chile. Yeah, all those kind of teams that actually are really good quality games that'll excite people to watch, that'll expand the game. And then, say, the top 4 out of that competition automatically roll into the World Cup. So even if they get into that top 4, maybe they play 3 or 4 games beforehand, and they play 3 or 4 games at the World Cup. You're expecting tier 1 teams to play 7 or 8 games. Why shouldn't you expect or give the opportunity for the tier 2 teams to actually play a decent tournament? They could get some silverware and at the same time qualify for the next stage of the tournament, which would be epic. I think the Cricket World Cup did it a while ago.
They did. And I think that would be the best solution. Should we go work for World Rugby? I think we can sort them out.
Yeah,
I think we could give them some ideas here, you know?
Listen, World Rugby, get in contact. Triton George, SA Rugby, we'll make changes, we'll give you a nice product to sell, and we'll let your Portugals come away with some silverware instead of going home with a draw and a win against pretty average teams.
Yeah, I'm down with the Shield idea. I've been thinking about that. I think we've chatted about it not on a pod before, but we've chatted about it, and it makes sense. Just do it. We've got the when I come across rude, you've got like old high class men running World Rugby. High class, probably the wrong word.
Yeah,
upper class.
You've got old men with old ideas, and they want to make money in their expansion rather than actually making enjoyable games, which will make people watch rugby. Make enjoyable games, and people will watch rugby. Make terrible games and no one will watch rugby. It's so simple.
Easy as pie.
Easy as pie. Well,
contact World Rugby tomorrow. We're going to sort this out.
Get them on the blower. We'll talk them through it. We'll get it all changed by tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, George, what won't be a piece of cake, what won't be a cakewalk, what won't be easy is the World Cup final, baby. The greatest two teams in World Rugby. 3 wins each in World Cups. Vying for the 4th. Tell me about it.
It's the thing of dreams. This is the final we've all been wanting since '95. It's the rematch. Hopefully nobody gets food poisoning, but it's going to be badass. It's going to be badass. And it's mouth-watering. And I mean, it is the game that everyone wants. End of story.
Well, I think everyone's saying that, but it's mainly the game that South Africans and New Zealanders want. Everyone else can't give a damn, quite frankly. I think the French wanted Ireland, the Irish wanted anyone, the English, wanted a chance at something. But it is the best game in World Rugby, and it's been super tight over the last 8 or 9 games, most of them being pretty even. You've got a couple of standout victories with a couple of extra scores, and of course the Twickenham showcase that we had, which was a friendly. Let's not forget. But George, it's going to be insanely just tense and gnarly and abrasive and physical. What do you think the main areas are that New Zealand are going to try and attack us?
Well, they're going to know that we are a bit fatigued, considering we've had, like you said earlier, we've played 6 now of the top teams, and they've played 2 or 3. So they will probably try and get us tired, which they might not. But other than that, I think they'll maybe aim for our backline, because our forward pack is, in my opinion, better than theirs. And their backline's got the little silky skills that is scary. And they do little behind the back passes and whatever else, they come up with little chip overs. Mm-hmm. That's where I think they'll try and exploit us with our rush defense.
Yeah, I think they're gonna try and break up the game. They're gonna try to keep it open. Fozzie's been very loud and talkative about how much he loves ball in play time. So he's gonna try and wear us out, isn't he? And we're probably gonna try and slow it down slightly. It's 2 such opposing styles. And I'm not saying it, we have the backs that play beautiful rugby, but we grind out the wins, whereas the All Blacks obviously try and flare out the wins, and more often than not they do. So to win this game, George, the Boks have to be so much better than their best. The one thing I can tell you is we will never play 2 games in a row as badly as we just played against England. And I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, it's a good thing that we had a close game. It would have been great if we had an easy game and could rest all our players. But I think that's going to be a rocket up the arse. I think the boys know that they could never play like that again, certainly not in the World Cup final. And there's not much you need to get these guys up for it.
Not at all. Majority of them have been there. They were there last 4 years ago. They also had the shorter week 4 years ago. I think we played on the Sunday. And the finals on the Saturday. So we're used to it, and the coaches would have been prepped and planning for it. They'll do light practicing and whatever else, but they're all going to be thinking about what the country what it means to the country, because it's so much more than just rugby. And I know it might come across cliche, but it's true. You see the videos of people back home like flocking in the streets and losing their mind. You wouldn't see that happen over here in England. You wouldn't. I think
it's
just doesn't even watch rugby.
It's just South Africa needs this. And yes, we have it and we've just had it, but things have got so much worse in so many ways through COVID, through economic trouble that we're going through load shedding since 2019. You can almost just copy and paste the chat that Rassie would have had in 2019, that the people need this, that we need this. That they're fighting for a higher cause. They're fighting for a cause that is noble and it's necessary. And we need to get out there and get this done.
That's it. 100%. And I'm going to be in the streets of Cape Town. I won't take my shirt off, I promise, because that'll offend everyone. But I'm fingers crossed that I'll be home.
Well, look, I think it's going to be a tight game. Most finals are. And I think the difference will come in the bomb squad, whether our bomb squad can take hold of them, can pummel them in the scrums, can get them going. And I really hope that they can. And no matter what happens, those boys are going to go out there and leave everything on the field. It might be the last World Cup for a bunch of them. Certainly your Dwaynes, even people like Irvin and Sia. In 4 years, their bodies might not be playing at the level that they're playing now. Yeah. And this is the opportunity that we need to do what we couldn't do in 2011, what we couldn't do in 1999, and what we have to do. There is no option but to win this World Cup.
Yeah, they just got to empty the tank and go balls to the wall, and just remember that nice ice cold beer waiting for them after the game. And
ice cold beer, hopefully a bomb squad lager.
Or drink a Brunnis and Coke out of the Webb Ellis. It's gonna be epic. And against New Zealand, I'm happy it's against New Zealand.
Me too.
Loads of reasons.
It's an opportunity for us to prove that we can be one of the best teams in history, and I cannot wait for that. George, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Prediction, please.
Right. I think the weather is going to be similar to last week, maybe a little bit less rainy. I say it's going to be 18 points to 16.
Oh, I was going to say 18-15, 3 points difference. I think it's going to be unbelievably tight.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing to those boys that are going out there, George. We are so proud of you. Sia, Irvin, Bongi, Dwayne, every single person in that team. I could list every single one of you. Rassie, Jacques, we're so grateful for the work you're doing. Coach Sticks, every single one of you guys have shown us South Africans pride, have given us hope, have given us things to shout and to cry and to scream about. And most of all, you have shown us what it is about to be together, stronger together. And we love you guys so much. And we hope you win. But either way, we know you're going to make us proud. Go out there and give them fucking horns.
Come on, Iwoka!
I'm getting emotional thinking about it. George.
Oh, I'm getting all psyched up.
It's going to be unbelievable. This is the 10th episode of the podcast, believe it or not. We will do one more before we go on a bit of a mid-season break. Hopefully it's a glorious episode. But either way, stay safe out there, everyone. It's gonna be heart palpitations for 80 plus minutes. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube, to like everything we do on Instagram, to go on to Spotify, follow us there, pass the pod to your friends, let everyone know about it if you like it. We really appreciate your time. George, have you got any last words?
Oh, I can't top what you just said because it was beautiful, but just come on, Iwoka Boka!
Come on, the Booker! Oh, well, that's all from us at the SA Rugby Oak podcast. Good night and good luck.